One of the first things that she did after becoming the leader of the Department of Homeland Security is that Kristi Noem made a new rule for FEMA that says if we're going to dole out $100,000 worth of aid, either in actual monetary, awards or in manpower, if it's over $100,000, I, Kristi Noem, have to personally approve it. I have to sign it because we got to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, we had a massive disaster last week, of course, in the state of Texas. More than 120 people dead in those devastating floods, countless still missing. And it took 3 days after the floods began for Kristi Noem to finally getting around to signing that thing saying, okay, fine, you guys can have FEMA assistance. But for those 3 days, the 3 most vital days after the natural disaster, there were no FEMA search and rescue crews. There were no FEMA boots on the ground anywhere. People's lives could have been saved had Kristi Noem not put this rule into effect, or if perhaps she wasn't too busy posting polls on Instagram about which picture should hang of her in the South Dakota Capitol. Because yes, that's what she was busy doing. This cosplay Kristi was more concerned about getting her Instagram followers to vote on which photo they liked of her best than saving lives in the state of Texas, as is her job. This is the most disgusting. This is worse, by the way, than the horrific FEMA response to Hurricane Katrina when George W. Bush went down and said, "You're doing a heck of a job, Brownie," about Michael Brown. Some of you may not be old enough to remember that. But living along the Gulf Coast and working in, progressive media, we lived it and we got to see it in the news. A double whammy of horribleness for us. But Kristi Noem did not approve FEMA going into Texas because she was too busy with her own vanity and narcissism, asking people, which photo do you like, but where do I look prettiest? Which one should hang in the Capitol? Because I've got to be careful, because remember the horrible painting of Trump in Colorado? I don't want to do that. People died because she was more concerned about how she looked in a painting. That's what happened. And as usual, the story actually gets a little worse. Because Kristi Noem is following the GOP playbook put forth decades ago. She has destroyed FEMA, because FEMA is a part of the Department of Homeland Security. She has destroyed it and made it incompetent. But she is now using that incompetence as an excuse to look at the agency and say, aha, it doesn't work, we should get rid of it. Because this week, after she finally released FEMA to go to Texas, I guess she figured out which photo she was going to use, she said this: "Federal emergency management should be state and locally led rather than how it has operated for decades. It has been slow to respond at the federal level. It's even been slower to get the resources to Americans in crisis, and that is why this entire agency needs to be eliminated as it exists today and remade into a responsive agency." It is a responsive agency. You came in, changed the rules so that it cannot be a responsive agency. Now you're trying to hide behind the rules you created that slowed down response time to say that we need to get rid of it. You intentionally kneecapped the agency, and now you're like, aha, look, it doesn't work. Obviously, we shouldn't have it. It's intentional. It's failure by design. And this is what Republicans have been doing for decades. If you've watched me on this channel for years or watched me over at Ring of Fire, you know that I have laid out this exact scenario for 10 years now. Republicans come into power telling us the government doesn't work, although the government did work. But then they go in, they start removing pieces of machinery, they fire all the people, they defund the agencies, and then at that point, the agencies do not work. And then they go out and say, see, told you, look, it's not working. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. Ha ha, I was right. Well, no, you weren't. You were right because you intentionally sabotaged the machine so that it fit your narrative. It retroactively fits your narrative. That's what they do. People are dead because of Kristi Noem's response here. This is a woman that needs to be impeached. This is a woman that likely should be put on trial for this because she was too damn concerned about what people thought of her paintings than she was about saving lives in Texas. Thanks for watching today, everybody. And don't forget, if you're not already, please do subscribe to this channel. We have fresh content going up every single day, and I would really hate for you to miss out on that. And speaking of missing out, if you're not following me across all other social media outlets, then get on it. You can follow the links in the description of this video.